Double jeopardy? Manafort may have minutes after Judge Amy Behrman Jackson of the U.S. District Court of the District of Columbia imposed a 60-month sentence on Donald Trump's one-time campaign manager Paul Manafort on Wednesday, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office added to Manafort's woes by. The state indictment charges 16 counts, including mortgage fraud, falsifying business records and a scheme to defraud. Manafort may be relying on the president to issue a pardon. If he is, the double jeopardy clause of the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution states that, nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. This to the state, the challenge in most cases is determining whether the second offense is the same as the first offense. In 1930, double jeopardy is one of those protections, however, where the exceptions swallow the rule. For example, under the dual sovereignty doctrine, state and federal prosecutions for the same conduct may not be barred by the federal Constitution's double jeopardy clause. Because the state and Manafort's best chance against these state charges flow not from his federal rights, but rather his state rights. The New York State Constitution has its own. But in New York, has two parts. Part 1 is simple. One exception allows successive prosecutions where the crimes have substantially different elements. Another permits us, if, for example, the new state charges against Manafort have substantially different elements, or involve different victims. For example, different banks than Manafort might not have a double jeopardy defense under New York state law. Then again, his defense team may be able to convince a New York state judge that the state legislature intended the state double jeopardy laws to provide greater protection than the Fifth Amendment double jeopardy clause. If Manafort's Danny Savalas is an MSNBC legal analyst. Follow on Twitter.
Raindrop, drip, drop top, top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. I get fucking on your bitch, yeah, that.